Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us again. This is Food for Thought, and I'm Sunil Chandy, and this is a ministry out of Christ Episcopal Church. Thank you for being with us. And again, it is our way of connecting with you, our community of Connecticut, and also, I got the other thing going on. I'm so sorry about that. It's our way of connecting with you and also our community in Rhode Island as well. And Natalie, thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with MC Harford. Oh, hello. Yes, hello. Thank you, Maura, for coming on board. And Betsy, thank you. Namaste. This is our guest this week is just, today is just as amazing as yesterday, and the guest day before yesterday, MC Harford was the guest on Monday, and she started off this whole week for me, and it's been an exciting week for me because I'm connecting with friends from high school, and I haven't been to my high school in over 30 years, and it's been a really wonderful journey back to remember and reflect on my experience there. And today's guest is a person who is just amazing. He's done some amazing work in life after high school, and I remember him in high school being a very good young man who just had a real spiritual quality about him, and I didn't expect him to go follow the path that he did. Well, and to tell you the truth, I didn't expect to follow the path that I did. So God has a way of working. So I'm excited that you're connecting with us as I'm connecting with my past, and hopefully it might model to you how this present challenge might call you to connect with parts of your life that you might not have usually connected with. I remember prior to COVID-19 that I was always running, always busy, always working something or trying to connect with people and with the ministry that I have. And I never had a time to really just pause, to sit, to reflect as often as I wanted to. I mean, it would happen, but it would be kind of in the midst of juggling all these other things. But this COVID-19 challenge offered me a time to kind of recollect, to sit down, and also to find new ways of learning what this experience has meant for me. And so I was lucky to reconnect with some people from high school, and MC Harford was the first person that I connected with, and we started this conversation. And of course, we had this venue, this platform to kind of find wisdom and insight. And so so that's how this week came about. So I'm glad that you're sharing this experience with me and connecting with me. This week, of course, is the week leading up to Holy Week, and it is an important one in the Judeo-Christian or the Christian community, especially as we move into this experience of Holy Week. And my first, our first experience of Holy Week is Palm Sunday, and the readings for Palm Sunday are pretty amazing. Of course, in our church, a liturgical church, we have the Passion narrative. We go through this whole story of how Jesus confronts the powers that be and tries to begin a revolution through a populist revolution as he enters into Jerusalem, and as he enters into it, we hear the Passion, which is actually the suffering of Jesus as he engages the powers that be and tries to transform Jerusalem, Israel, and also the world to something to the kingdom of God, right? And so Palm Sunday, we enter into that experience, and it's almost joyful, triumphant as we relive that experience. But then as we go through the rest of Holy Week, as we go through Maundy Thursday, in which Jesus gives us the two great commandments, to love God, love our neighbor as ourselves, and to do what he does, which is to serve people, and to bring about transformation through our service of one another. And then we go through from Monday, Thursday over to Good Friday, in which Jesus dies on the cross, and it seems to be tragic, and it is tragedy, and that Good Friday story reminds us that there that violence and tragedy are a part of the human condition, and then and yet in the midst of it, God is present somehow with us, and God, for people of faith, God transforms that tragedy into something that resembles resurrection and hope and joy, and so it models even our own experience of what is challenging in our lives. I mean, COVID-19 is a tragedy in many ways. The virus has killed over 500,000 people. It's affected. That's only in the U.S., right? It's affected many, many, many more, and of course, it has affected our daily lives. And so, how do we take this moment, uh, this challenge, and this tragedy, and acknowledge God's presence in it, and somehow find the gift in it? And then, of course, and finally in Holy Week, we have, well, in our church, we have the Easter Vigil service, which is going to be a really different service than what we used to. We used to have this service as a large community service for us, and where we start a fire outside, the sacred fire of God. We bring it into the church. That's a dark church, and then at a particular moment, we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, and all the lights come on, the noises come out, and then at that service, we usually have a baby baptized. Well, this coming Holy Week Saturday will be joyful and hopeful, but it'll be socially distant, and we are going to be baptizing a child in the who will remind us of Easter resurrection, new life, and new hope. And then, of course, on Sunday morning we'll have the Easter Sunday services. So I hope that those of you who are able to come and join us will, through this Holy Week, to join us and experience the work of God through liturgy, and then use that as a metaphor for our own lives as we face our particular challenges. So please be invited and know that you're welcome. Of course, this today, again, I am so happy about the guest that we have, and his name is the Reverend Dr. Daniel C. Kanter. I remember him as Dan the Man back in high school, because he was always a very popular young man, but also a friendly person. He has an impressive resume, and I'd like to read it to you. Dan is the senior minister and CEO of First Unitarian Church of Dallas, and the author of the book Faith for the Unbeliever, published by Skinner House Books in 2017. Daniel came to Texas in 2001 from Boston. After holding the associate minister position, he was called to the senior minister role in 2009. He is the recent past chair of the Clergy Advocacy Board at Planned Parenthood Federation of America, and he has served on the Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas Board of Trustees, and has been the president of the senior ministers of large Unitarian Universalist churches, as well as part of the Unitarian Universalist Association Task Force to define ministry competency. He has chaired the board of one of our own UU seminaries, taught at UU students at Bright Divinity School, and was the Harvard Divinity School Fellow in Residence during the fall of 2017. He is a founding member and serves on the leadership committee of Faith Forward Dallas at Thanksgiving Square, a multi-faith organization addressing issues of justice and compassion in Dallas, Texas. Daniel joined the board of trustees of Reading Partners of North Texas in 2020. He writes for the Dallas Morning News editorial page, has appeared on the radio for PRI, the world, as a guest on podcasts and as an active participant in Dallas Public Dialogue. He has a BA in Psychology and Asian Area Studies from the University of Vermont, a Master's of Divinity from Starr King School for the Ministry, and a Doctorate of Ministry from Perkins Theological School at SMU. He lives in East Dallas with his family, enjoys cycling and time at White Rock Lake in between strategic visioning, working with the church board of trustees, preaching, teaching, and leading the church staff and ministerial teams. An impressive resume for an impressive man. And Ben, please bring Dan on board.
I do not know the man. All that is just to say, I just keep myself busy.
Well, you sure do. I mean, it's just amazing. I always remembered you back in high school as one cool kind of person who just was casual. You were always tall for your age. You played basketball, and
you know what? Yeah, I was thinking about high school a lot because of this, and just thinking about, my goal in high school was just to be friends with everyone, and not in a kind of needy way, but just to know everyone.
Yeah.
And I did, and I ended, and two things really were going on in high school for me. I don't know, for you, but one of the things is I ended up doing some side counseling, sort of for couples counseling. I remember doing. But the other thing was really, I really had a sort of a big move in high school away from sort of athletics, drinking, and partying into, more meaningful engagement with ambulance corps and some other things. So it was a strange time, as it is for everyone, but I'm so glad to be 30 plus years down the road and to see you and to see, you and I actually dealing with very, very similar things come in this coming week. For Unitarian Universalists, Holy Week is rich with metaphor. And we'll be exploring that this Sunday, and we have a Monday, Thursday evening, and then Easter Sunday. Service. So
it's like it's funny though, because the Holy Week experience, especially for in liturgical churches like ours, and I'll tell you, I know a little bit about the Unitarian church, but not a lot, and it doesn't surprise me actually that you actually went in that vein of the ministry, because I always remembered you as a person who was always seeking. I mean, I know in your history, and we didn't mention it in your bio, but you spent some time in India, near Tamil Nadu, and then you went to you almost became a Buddhist, and which was, it actually followed. I mean, I had something of a similar track. I mean, there was for me, I remained still within the church, but there was even with, because of our experience at Teaneck High School, I had friends from all over the world, all over many different traditions. And so this idea of even like salvation being only for one particular type of person or one particular faith I've always struggled with that.
Yes. And I think that's a wise approach, to remember that there's so many paths to God and to life. And I think your memory of me in high school might be a little generous, but I appreciate it. I did spend time in India. The reason I'm a minister, and I went to college, I went to the University of Vermont thinking I was going to be a psychiatrist, going to med school and all that. I totally bailed out in science. I couldn't do the science at all. But I was the social side of liberal arts was really important to me. I studied religion, psychology. I ended up living in South India for a year in a Muslim home next to a Hindu pilgrimage site with an atheist neighbor. And for me, growing up a Unitarian Universalist, I was very comfortable in all of those things, because as a Unitarian Universalist, I was taught to keep an open mind. And that for us is very important. And I felt fluid through all that. And then eventually I went back to India the second time to study Buddhism with the Buddhist studies program in Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha was enlightened. And yeah, I almost ended up being a Zen monk. Had a mountaintop calling that would just come out of a comic book of the Bible, just sort of a whack on the side of the head that said, Daniel, what are you pursuing? You're pursuing this exotic world out there, but where you're needed. And the call was in a silent meditation on the top of a mountain, I kid you not, the words in my ear, return home and serve your people. And it took me a while, but returning home meant coming back to the States. Service was, I was a teacher with really difficult kids. And then really I figured out the real service to my people was service to Unitarian Universalism.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Yeah, you are deep, man. I'm telling you.
I think it just remained open, like I think that's, people remain more open to not only like mystical experiences. I think actually because these things happen to us all the time, but we, as you said in your intro, we're so busy. One of the blessings of COVID and for two clergy people to be complaining they don't have time to reflect is kind of a a joke, because aren't we supposed to be modeling reflective life? But for all of us, we've been forced into this almost retreat, right? And being reflective just is difficult. That's why we watched so much Netflix, but it's also an opportunity, just to pause. I'm not rushing around to meetings all the time. And I think we've slowed down, and I hope the benefit of COVID for many of us is that take out all the people working in hospitals and really trying to keep us alive.
Right.
They've been rushing more and more. But there's a blessing there. And I think it comes back to remaining open, paying attention. What's happening in your life? Mysteries happen all the time. Just take a walk down the street here in Dallas. Everything's in bloom. We had, a month ago, it was 6 degrees, iced over, crazy. Now we've got ferns growing up. It's beautiful, like things growing. Yeah. The world is a miracle, and it's beautiful. And we miss it, because we're busy in our heads, and that, to me, that's been a lifelong pursuit. I'm not that good at it yet, but
and we're all improving. But what you just reminded me of this is remember the biblical story of Moses, when Moses comes to he's on Mount Horeb, I think, or on a mountain, and he's watching the sheep, and all of a sudden there's like a bush that's burning. It's the burning bush. And what it says in the scriptures, in the Revised Standard Version, is that that Moses turned around and he noticed, and then as he noticed, he approached it, and that's when God said to him, "Take off your sandals on holy ground."
Right.
And I think like one of the traditions I remember about Moses was his humility, the ability to be open. Requires us to be humble, right? Requires us to be able to let go of all the stuff, to empty all our vessel of the body and the mind, and to empty it so that God could fill it up in some way.
Yes, and to look for blessings in unexpected places, and the humility actually for this week and for Sunday, and we'll both be probably talking about this, is the contrast between the Roman Empire expectation of a king and the king who comes on a donkey, and the donkey walks on people's cloaks, not with legions of the Roman army. That a different kind of humility opens us up to peace and opportunities to love each other, and that standing on holy ground perspective allows us to then put perspective on who we are in the world. We are not kings marching into triumphs of war. We are people who are largely just trying to make sense of what the world is with, hopes and expectations, but who the heck knows what's going to happen, next. And for Palm Sunday, that's part of the story, right? I mean, the characters don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Hailed one day, betrayed the next, etc. But yeah, I believe you're tapping into something there, that being open is also a form of humility.
Yeah.
And we fail at it a lot, but we try.
Yeah, we try, and I actually think that actually is the key, to keep trying, right? And God, in our tradition, we rely heavily on the grace of God, which is the idea that that somehow we're not perfect, we aren't perfect, and that's okay, as we keep striving to do better and to be better for better neighbors, better in love with God, and even to engage in self-love, meaning appropriate self-love, not narcissism, but kind of like just being able to kind of help us to appreciate, to love ourselves for even in the midst of our challenges.
Yeah, and for Unitarian Universalists, we'd say the God within and beyond is what calls us to our higher selves, our best selves. And also not assuming, for Unitarian Universalists, not assuming we have a sort of even a deistic or a theistic perspective, but that for us, one of the things that's really important is what we do in this world, which has also driven a lot of what my life has tried to be about: service to others, especially those who are oppressed, and being involved in work around women's rights, and now a lot around racial equity, and trying to just make this world a better place the best I can, humbly knowing that I will do my best, and that the marathon is really long. And I'm just a relay. I'm just a relay, member on this journey to the vision of the kingdom of God, which is that, peace and justice and love prevail. And even when it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, we've lived through a lot of things recently that just feel bad, and, for us, we're not living in a world of sin. We're living in a world where we can sin. Yeah. We can make mistakes, but we are actually living in a world of beauty, grace, and miracle. And so that for me as a Unitarian Universalist is really important. By the way, I served the King's Chapel in Boston, which is probably way more liturgical than even your church. For 3 years, I served that church. We had a Easter vigil that ended at midnight. It was wild. We don't do all of that here in Dallas, but we do have the Holy Week coming. I look forward to it, and I love Easter too. For us, it's a great, joyful reminder that something good, blessings can come from difficulty.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I mean, I love Easter. But I also, But I also have over the years appreciated Good Friday, because I don't want to diminish the walk to the cross.
Yeah.
Because and even the walk to the cross can be filled with, the walk to the cross. I mean, Jesus, in our tradition, Jesus walked alone, but our walk to the cross is not alone. We have other people with us, and the work that you do, the justice work you do, that's a walk to the cross. It's knowing that someday the promised land will come, that the kingdom will come, but it's also knowing that it may not happen at this moment, but there is still this sense of promise when you're walking with other people, when you have that vision of hope. And so I don't want to diminish that Good Friday experience.
Yeah. No, I don't either. We have a different perspective on it, for sure. For us, the cross, for Unitarian Universalists, the cross is mostly about the betrayal and the attempt at the murder of truth and love.
Yeah.
For us, it's not so much about atonement, and for us, resurrection is more metaphor than actual. But the purpose, I think, is similar, and that is in our Tenebrae service, which actually we do Thursday night. I know that's not that's not right liturgically, but we've
well, you're Unitarian. It's all right.
Yeah. But we end in the darkness, and we slam the book, and we say, you know, these are important metaphors to live into as deeply as you can, because there is no Easter without acknowledging the death.
The darkness.
That even in our lives, many things die before they bloom. And I'm not talking about plants. I'm talking about, you know, human life, and even hopes die. You know, I don't know that the things I'm working on will ever be reconciled. The fact that we are still working on racial equity, you know, after how many years of, you know, trying to do this, maybe we're just at the beginning. Maybe it will never, you know, land in the promised land. But as Moses, you go back to Moses' messages, maybe that's not the point, you know. He dies on the mountain still looking at the promised land. And as long as it provides us the hope to move forward with the key message for me from Jesus, which is love one another and reveal hypocrisies of power and greed that keep us from justice. And if we can just do our little parts in that, that's what's important. You know, and so I have a chapter in my book on trust, and I think right now one of the things that we have to work on is trusting each other. And if the people listening to this can go have a dialogue with somebody they never expected to talk with, or see even as someone who they can't talk with, and find some common ground and build a little bit of trust, the world is a better place. And that to me is the work we're doing. It's nice, you know, just to have this dialogue and to reconnect. But I think also we're part of the weaving the fabric of trust in the world. A Unitarian minister in Dallas, a priest in Rhode Island, talking, even though we went to high school together, you know, a long time ago. These are things that are important. You know, this is important. And I hope that people listening take it on as a mission. Maybe it's something they should do this week. You know, go find someone to try to build a little trust and dialogue with. Could be someone lives next door, you know, who had the wrong sign on their lawn during the last election or something. It doesn't matter. We need to find ways to trust each other. And I'll stop preaching now. You can.
No, I love the preaching. I love the preaching. That's exactly what we need. I mean, it's, you know, I think I'll tell you, Dan, a little bit about my congregation, and I hope that one day you'll come and preach with us. You know, or
that'd be great.
It'd be great. I think it'd be great. And but my congregation is filled with folks who are both. We have some very conservative folks, and then we have some very, very liberal folks. I mean. And the one thing about my congregation that I so love is the fact that we all come together equal before this altar of God. We come before. I mean, for us, the Eucharist is so very important, and symbolically, we come with our hands clasped, one hand over the other to receive the sacrament, and there's an equality there. We all come to be fed by God.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing for us. That communion, we do only communion twice a year, and Thursday is one of them. This year, it's a virtual communion, and I miss looking at our Unitarian ancestors from Europe have a tradition where they don't speak in communion. They look into one another's eyes and they feed each other, and that connection is the point. Not only personal but communal. For us, it's in remembrance of Jesus and the teachings. And there's something beautiful about that is that I'm missing right now. Obviously, we're not touching each other in church and giving each other food and wine. That's just not possible. but I believe it's true, you know, beyond all the theology around it, just the act of, just that act of, it's an intimacy that we have with each other that transcends politics,
That's
you
right.
know, and you're conservatives and liberals coming together, kneeling side by side. That's
Yeah,
the act of humility that's actually really important.
right.
And we need more of that.
Yeah. And I think this is how we do it. I mean, part of it, I think, even in this challenging moment, where God teaches us, and
Yeah.
we should be open to it. And uh, again, I love the fact that I'm able to connect with you, and I would never have had this opportunity if it
Yeah.
wasn't for COVID-19. I mean, I mean, high school was a distant memory of mine.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but now through this experience, I mean, through COVID, I'm
Yeah.
connecting with my friends from high school, and I'm remembering that even at that experience in high school was powerful. And although I might not have been aware, there were
Yeah.
things that were happening in that in that environment that helped me to be who I am today.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about where we grew up was it was deliberately integrated and celebrated as a place with so many languages, ethnicities, races, all people, and in some ways, in that time, in the mid '80s, we really did transcend a lot of those boundaries, and it made, at least for me, I can say, it made me a better person in the world. Not, you know, not saying I'm not aware of my privilege and being white and male and walking through the world as a, you know, 6'3" person, but you know, all that stuff aside, I listen to the world in a different way because of having grown up with so many friends of so many backgrounds, and it doesn't excuse anything I may do or I may have done. I ask you for for your forgiveness for anything I may have done to you or to forgive me, Father, or to any of our classmates. It
Yeah.
really is a distant past, and we were stupid, you know. we're way smarter now.
Well, you know what? And the one thing I've learned through this conversation, and also all of my conversations up to this point, and even I'm sure, is that we're always evolving, we're always changing, we're always learning. I mean, Mahatma Gandhi once says, I reserve the right to change my mind."
Yes.
You know, and so what we did 30, 40 years ago is not who we are right now. But that does inform us a bit. But um,
Yeah, the
I'm just so
roots are there.
Yeah, I'm just so glad again. Thank you,
Thank you.
again, for spending this time with me. And I'm really serious. I'll invite you to,
Okay.
come and we can figure out a time when we
Yeah.
get to.
Well, I preached out of the lectionary for 3 years in Boston, so I know how to do that.
Well, I know that a number of my friends here, David Ames
Yeah.
being one of those,
Yeah.
and I'm good friends with him, and we're I know that he'll be very surprised and happy to hear that we connected.
Yeah, that would be great.
Dan, God bless you. And you know
Yeah.
what?
Bless you.
I have my youngest son is named Dan also.
Yeah.
Although it wasn't necessarily after you, I still call him
Come
Dan the Man.
Hey, it's a good name. In the lion's den.
That's it. That's.
Yeah. All right. Hey,
Thanks,
man,
God.
it's great to connect with you. Thanks for having me on, and hello to all our classmates from back then. You know, folks can also go to my website if they want, to dallasuu.org,
Yeah,
if you're interested in what we're doing. And
definitely. I think Ben, can you put that up? We'll put it up on our thing too. And
yeah.
I want to get to your book. I want to read that. I wanted to read it for next time also.
Okay. Well, happy to talk again on this show. We have a lot to talk about. So
I know. I love it.
okay. All right, man. Great.
We'll see you later.
Thanks.
All right. Bye. Just amazing, isn't he? It's always great to connect with people. And again, this is the one gift that I found through this COVID-19, among the various and many other gifts, It's the ability to connect and reach out and find people that can give you hope and joy. I mean, today even one of my friends from high school, Esther, just reached out, and a smile to my face. Um, so I thank God for this great gift that we have. And well, right now we're finished with our program, but let's end our time with prayer. And this is a prayer crafted by Bishop Thomas Brown of Maine. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled to towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, counselors, and caregivers. We ask this all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, go in peace to love and serve God. Spread the light of Christ, the light of joy and hope to the world. The world needs it right now.
Thanks for watching. Did you know that you can join Christ Church from anywhere in the world? If you're feeling connected to what we're doing, email us today at communicate@christchurchwesterly.org.